This is the Bitcoin Otter Radio Show.
Oh my God, I love you so much!
On 97.7 FM, The City.
Greetings, blessings, and good fortune, everybody. We got another Thursday Palooza here at KCYP 97.7 FM. We're rocking and rolling out of the McAllen Creative Incubator. Once again, thank you. We're going out on YouTube. We're going out on the Bitcoin Otter YouTube program or show, channel, whatever, the Christopher Ott channel, Facebook, YouTube, right? Joe Martinez is 97.7 is going out also on Facebook and YouTube. Also 97.7 FM can be seen and heard. Well, not seen so much as heard on the apps TuneIn Radio and Radio Garden. Great places to listen to the show, not just mine, but all the other shows that come out of the 97.7 studios. Now, we got a lot to talk about today. Let me cue up the queue, if you will. So I've got us live now on the Bitcoin Otter's Facebook. Just got to see where it's going to post up here. And I'll come on over here and get on the Christopher Ott home page that we might see where we are. And there we are. And let's see, anybody up yet? Omar, good to see you. Sue, Barry, awesome. Great to see you at the beginning of the show. If you notice, I got away with a good one, guys. You'll love this. This was a guy victory. As you can see, this shirt has no wrinkles on it. Why? Because my wife wasn't home when I left the house, so I only had to iron the front of the shirt. Every little victory we get, gentlemen, every little victory we get, we have to count. And that's just something that we're going to want to do. So as I'm pulling this up here, just want to, hopefully you guys can celebrate with me there. So a lot of things to talk about. And again, as usual, I want to see the comments, okay? Because I want to see what you guys are thinking. I want to be able to have a conversation as opposed to a monologue, because there's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of stuff I want to explain better and I want to understand from others better. So here we go. Again, the economic barometer is coming your way. And the very first thing I ought to mention is Bitcoin. So it's bouncing back. 84,511 while I was doing show prep. And I'm going to go in this order because these are the primary methods by which I think you and I can set ourselves up for success financially during this rough time that's going to be coming up soon. Now, Bitcoin 84,511, silver $33.81. It came down a little bit, whereas gold at 3,055 went up. Ladies and gentlemen, 3,000 was the mark, okay? All-time high in your and my lifetime. This is amazing for a few different reasons, but not the least of which is that the cracks are beginning to show. Okay, the in the chains, the shackles that the usual suspects, the banksters, have placed on the price of gold and silver. It's going to break. It's going to bust out, ladies and gentlemen, one of these days. They're not going to be able to suppress these prices much longer. This is me, right? I am not a financial advisor. There's my disclaimer. I have no tie. I do have a front iron shirt, not the back, because she wasn't home and didn't inspect it. So I left without having to do the reverse portion of my shirt. Now, that being said, the average mortgage rates are still high. We're at 6.7 for a 30-year rate and 5.97, just about, you might as well say 6, for a 15-year locked-in rate. So it's still not pretty. It will get better. Patience, everyone. Okay? I am confident it will be better. So this is from Bitcoin.com. President Trump pledges U.S. leadership in cryptocurrency at Digital Asset Summit. Now, this is different from the one they had at the White House, which was a Digital Asset Summit, but it was a White House junta, if you want to use that terminology. Addressing, this is out of Bitcoin.com. Addressing the summit's attendees via video feed, Trump declared his commitment to making America the global center for digital assets. Thank you, sir. This is Donald Trump. Together we will make America the undisputed Bitcoin superpower and the crypto capital of the world, he stated. He also highlighted the recent White House Digital Asset Summit, where top crypto executives met with White House AI and crypto czar David Sachs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very good news for those of us who enjoy cryptos the way I would imagine most of us do. So let's see. Omar says, greetings, long time no see. I know. Omar says, I already won the war by being single. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I was single. Now I am happily married, and but I still count my victories now and again. And one of them is my wife. So that notwithstanding, Trump called on Congress to pass legislation establishing clear regulations for stable coins and market structure. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we need. Arguing that a strong legal framework would allow institutions to invest and innovate freely. You will unleash an explosion of economic growth, he told the audience. Now, I'm telling you, it's awesome. Why? One, because he's talking about it, okay? Two, ladies and gents, he means what he says and says what he means. What I'm getting at is he never says these types of things and doesn't intend to bring them about. Now, will he be hamstrung by the banksters? Will he be shortcut and whatever? Yes, he will. But we're going to win, ladies and gents. We're going to win. It's inevitable. Okay? Bitcoin is not the future. It's the now. It is the now and the future. So, hi, mate. Good to see you, brother. So, there's something you guys may or may not want to know. Those of you that may or may not already have or are thinking of buying a Trezor. What is a Trezor, you ask? Some might not know. A Trezor is what is called a cold storage device. So it's about, I don't have my keys on me, but it's about the size of a key fob, okay? And it disconnects, which is called an air gap, disconnects from the internet while it guards your cryptos. So it's probably up till now. I don't know if there's anything better, but it's the best way, and not necessarily Trezor. There is also Ledger and some others. Okay, that company Trezor gives me nothing as far as revenue or ad revenue or anything like that. But what I'm getting at is it is a very secure way, and one that I recommend. Not that I'm the world's foremost expert, but I have learned a little bit, and Trezor is a very reliable way to safeguard your crypto, right? So that company, Trezor, has integrated Solana staking. Solana is a cryptocurrency for those that are beginning via partnership with Everstake. So Everstake is it's not a subsidiary of Solana or Trezor, but they're an independent staking / mining entity. So you can stake your cryptos with them, meaning their computers will be working as you stake your Solana. In this case, it's a cryptocurrency token that you can stake and receive interest on it. Now, the great thing about staking is you don't lose retention. You don't lose custody of your coins. So if you have some Solana and if you want to stake it, you can do so inside your Trezor. They have a suite. It's called the Trezor suite. So when you hook it up to your computer, be it a laptop, desktop, whatever, you're integrating with this suite, and it allows you a lot of freedom as to what you want to do and how you want to, store, correlate, view your cryptos on your device, right? So through that interface, you can stake Solana and receive. And let me get into the article here. Trezor. That's easy to say for me. Trezor Suite has made it so Solana, SOL is their ticker, holders can stake tokens directly from its hardware wallets while maintaining full asset control. And that's the idea, ladies and gentlemen. You want to have asset control. You do not want to have someone else in charge of your assets, your cryptos. You just don't want to have that. Brian, good to see you. Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Oh, and by the way, we're going to have Brian in a future iteration of the Bitcoin Otter Show. We're going to have him on. He's a young, upcoming boxer here from the Valley. Awesome. Local guy. Great man. He's just, he respects God. He follows God. And this is a conversation we had earlier, Brian and I. His dad is his manager. He's a boxer, as I said. So he is respecting the wishes of his dad and how his father is going forward in managing his career. And I think that is one of the best things I've heard all week. Why do I say that? Well, if you've read the Bible, you may or may not know that one of the first commandments with a promise, in fact, the first commandment with a promise attached to it, is honor your father and your mother, and things will go well for you. Brian is honoring his father. I'm sure he honors his mother too, but that wasn't part of the conversation. So as he goes forward in his career, we're going to be watching him, and we're going to, Lord willing, have him on one of these days. And we thank you for watching the show, Brian. And we'll have you in here, and you get to tell everybody who you are, what you're about. He trades on the Forex. He's smart kid, right? So that is upcoming. We'll keep you posted. Staking Sol contributes to the Solana network security and offers up to 7% annual percentage yield. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why banksters hate crypto. Because you can take your fiat, worth almost nothing now, fiat Federal Reserve notes. You can purchase cryptocurrencies, various cryptocurrencies to stake. When you stake them, you get a 7% or more, depending on where you stake it, depending on what the crypto asset is. All that stuff is very dependent on the way they work, each individual project, each individual token, crypto. Now, in this case, and this is also the case with T-Fuel, and if you hit me up on Bitcoin Otter at secure.com, SEKUR, I'll get back to you on how you can also stake T-Fuel. So T-Fuel is also 7%. You're not going to see that on your fiat currency at your bank. You can't get it at your bank. Maybe in a CD where you lock it in, perhaps. I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But 7% is pretty good. Now, do the values, or do the prices, I should say, of Sol and T-Fuel, et cetera, do they fluctuate so that you may or may not be earning more dollar-wise? Yes, they do, of course. Full disclosure here. However, there's always that opportunity that if it hits big, you've been accumulating these tokens for a while. And when it does, if it does hit big, you've got a stockpile of this stuff that you can either stake more of, reinvest, or sell and get something else, or pay off your car, your vehicle, your truck, your house. Who knows what this has in store for it. So Sue says, did you ever discover what might have happened to my XCN? No, I did not, Sue. No. And here's something I'll mention this. Sue, my sister, she had I can't remember exactly how many tokens it was. It was somewhere, it wasn't a huge amount, thank God. But a certain amount of XCN, okay, we've talked about this token, disappeared from her Trust wallet, which is on her phone. Trust wallet, which I have used for probably a year now, has been to me very reliable. I've never had this experience that Sue had, which is one day she had her XCN coins there. The next day she did not. I have not found from outside sources how it all occurred. And Sue and I have not gotten together to see if perhaps something happened on her phone. She reached out to someone reached out to her. There was some sort of scam involved. I don't know. Sue will have this conversation at some point. But the fact of the matter is, something happened and she didn't send it anywhere, because if she did, it would have been logged in on the ledger of the activity portion of where, things come and go in your wallet. So we'll keep you updated on that. I really don't know, and I'll keep trying to find out. But as far as this Sol opportunity that we have, if you have a Trezor, the minimum delegation requirement is 0.01 Sol. Sol is, if anybody wants to pop it up, I'll give you, you can give us the current price for 1 Sol, but 0.01 SOL, Sol, That stands for other things too, I know, but in this case, Solana. So 0.01 Sol is all you need. Very little money to start staking. And then you can, again, reinvest and get 7% continuously. Residual income, ladies and gentlemen. Residual income without having your funds in the Wall Street casino. To me, that's a win. That's just me, So Trezor emphasized that its interface streamlines delegation without compromising security protocols. Good news. Good news there. Now, this is out of Cointelegraph, and I know a lot of you are into XRP from the Ripple Labs. Hang on one second. So, Ripple celebrates SECs, that criminal organization. Yeah, it's a part of our U.S. government, which is pretty much a criminal organization. The Security and Exchange Commission dropped appeal, but crypto rules still not set. So, the victory that's being celebrated to the tune of a 6% bump in XRP prices is that the SEC finally gave up. They finally, they took their criminal claws. They uncurled the criminal talons from Ripple, okay? Because they're weakening. Because why? Patriots are in charge. That's why. Now, they gave up about a 6+ % bump in the price of XRP resulted so far. And here's what Cointelegraph says. The high-profile SEC case against Ripple seems to have come to a close. But the crypto industry still doesn't have a legal framework it wants. Now, what does the crypto industry want? I mean, you can't really, it's kind of like saying the American people want this. The crypto industry is made up of many different individuals. It's very much decentralized, thankfully. So there are certain people out there, especially people who wanted to integrate with banks, which is fine, but we don't want these current bankers in charge, do we? No, we don't. So we'll see what happens as far as, a level playing field, how that is established, the rules, taxation, all that kind of stuff. We're going to see how that rolls out in the future. Further on in the article, it says the U.S. financial regulator, SEC, has apparently dropped an appeal against Ripple, the issuing firm of crypto asset XRP. The industry saw the case as a prime example of regulatory overreach. I certainly did. By the SEC under former chairman, scum, go back to where you're from, Gary Gensler. Oh, the scum thing was me, But Gary Gensler is no friend of yours or mine. Anyway, SEC says proof of work. This is different. Same from Cointelegraph, but a different article. SEC says proof of work mining does not constitute securities dealing. Another good one, because the SEC, when it marks something as a securities dealing issue, then they want to slap you with, you got to have a license. You got to be an investor. There's a term that I'm searching for. Sue says Sol is currently at $127.50, $127.50. So for, it looks like $1 worth of Sol, you can actually start staking it. That'd be awesome. Yeah. So through your Trezor, in collaboration with the Trezor suite, it's just a thing of software you could have on your Mac or your PC. Again, Bitcoin Otter at sekur.com. I'll walk you through the whole thing. Don't worry about it. So, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's Division of Corporation Finance, that's a mouthful, has clarified its views on proof of work mining. Proof of work. What does that mean? Bitcoin is a proof of work cryptocurrency. It means that somebody's computer has to work to break down a formula, a mathematical problem that will grease the skids, so to speak, of the blockchain transactions. Now, this is formulated so that each transaction will take a certain amount of time. It's a lot of math. I'm not a math guy, but this is how it works. It makes your computer work. And what runs your computer? Electricity, energy, which costs money. So there's a value there. Now, of course, this value varies based on how much you spend for electricity, et cetera, et cetera. But again, the Bitcoin is priced at what people will buy it for, not how much your electricity costs. So it does take work to mine Bitcoin. Therefore, it is a proof of work token. So the SEC says proof of work mining does not constitute securities dealing. So you don't need a license to mine Bitcoin. It also has taxation ramifications, which I'm not sure on, so I'm not even going to tell you or guess what they are. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission says that such activities do not constitute the offer and sale of securities as outlined in the Securities Act of 1933. This is how backwards these people are. Okay? Granted, acts can be a good thing. An act of Congress can be a good thing. But they're using something from 1933 to regulate something in 2025. It's almost a century, very close, 8 years within a century. This is the problem with government. What do you mean, Otter? The problem with government is that it moves at the speed of government. If you want to know slow, check out the speed of government. You'll realize slow. Okay? Paint dries faster. Anyway, I want to introduce you all to one of the best current authors that I know of out there, okay, in the cyberspace, that has such a great grasp of not only reality, but the current situation we're in. Not only can he grasp it, not only can he understand it, but he can articulate it in written form in such a way that even guys like me can understand. And I'll wager you can too. So, Juanito's on. Juanito's on. Thank you, Juanito. So, let me give you this. And I put this up, if you want to see it in written form, I posted it prior to what I posted the show promo on. But this is on my Facebook, both Bitcoin Otter and Christopher Otter. This is from Martin Geddes, Geddes. His work is excellent. If you want to support him, he's on Substack. Understanding the learning journey in 5GW. What is 5GW, you might ask? Fifth generation warfare. Yeah, this guy goes deep. But it's worth every single dive into his substantive writing skills. Fifth generation warfare, writes Martin Geddes, is a new kind of conflict, one that takes place primarily in the domain of perception, narrative control, and psychological manipulation rather than on physical battlefields. Let me say that again, and I don't want to belabor this, but I want you to understand that there are very intelligent people out there that are able to articulate things that guys like me can just kind of grasp at. So fifth generational warfare is a new kind of conflict, one that takes place primarily in the domain of perception, narrative control, and psychological manipulation rather than on physical battlefields. You see, the people that attack, the people that attack our country, they're not doing it with a bombardment of munitions, bombs and missiles and so forth, because they can't. They'll get their ass whooped. So they come after us without a bullet fired because they don't need to. Ladies and gentlemen, they've captured probably almost half of our population. But I digress. Let me continue. Unlike traditional wars, where power is projected through armies, bombs, and weapons, 5GW operates through information, deception, censorship, financial leverage, and ideological subversion. Ladies and gentlemen, that sounds like a lot, but let me give you real world examples for each one of these terms. These are mine. Agree or disagree, these are mine. This is not Martin Geddes speaking here. I am trying to put terms that we can all relate to what he's saying here, because I'll tell you what, when I read Martin's stuff, I really gotta think about it. So 5GW, fifth generational warfare, operates through information. This could be media, this could be music, this could be movies, this could be whatever. Deception. It's not what it seems, and the veneer is very polished. Just use a pharmaceutical commercial. For example, think of a pharmaceutical commercial. Oh, it's great. You'll be relieved of your symptoms and this and that. And then, half a minute of super fast side effects roll. Censorship. Oh, we all know that. One of the reasons why I can't tell you all the things that I'd love to tell you is because we're on Facebook and YouTube, some of the biggest censorship-oriented platforms that there are, okay? Which is why I'm going to shift one of these days or add on to using X and Rumble, but we're rolling here on Facebook. We'll just leave it for now. Financial leverage. I have explained this many times on the show. Financial leverage is when you can do things like debank a person. So the Bitcoin Otter Private Membership Association was debanked from Lone Star National Bank here in Texas. Don't, hold that against Lone Star. They received, like every other branch of Federal Reserve, the criminal Federal Reserve, okay? It's a private entity, and that private entity dictates monetary policy here in the United States. Yeah, I know. Anyway, that private entity sent out a warning notice to all of their branches, all of the, they run deep, right? So even here, Lone Star National Bank said, Bitcoin Otter, no, we don't want you anymore. Why? Because the Federal Reserve was going to bring punitive action towards these bank branches that didn't knuckle under to the order. They said it was dangerous for all these people to be in the cryptocurrency framework, to be, doing this, that, or the other. Now, mind you, I was never, ever, ever going to have any Bitcoin in an establishment bank at all because they're not advanced enough to have Bitcoin. They're in the retard age. Anyway, I digress. But they wouldn't allow financial freedom, so they debanked the Bitcoin Otter PMA. Now, I went to Old Glory Bank, which is censorship resistant. I don't know about proof, but resistance, and we're still there with Old Glory Bank. Now, that is financial leverage that Mr. Martin Geddes talks about. And ideological subversion. What is ideological subversion? It's this. They invade us and subvert our ideology, which used to be one of honor, meritocracy, freedom, equal treatment under the law. All these great things, these concepts that used to be, began to be placed under attack by the usual suspects. The Illuminati, the International Criminal Syndicate, the Khazarian Mafia, whatever you want to call them. They run things like Marxism, the Bolsheviks, Soviet Russia, East Germany, all that kind of stuff is what they run. They also run the militant left in Europe, the United States, Australia, okay? They run all those psyops to subvert our ideology, and they've been very successful. If you want to know how successful, there was a great interview in 1982 of a Soviet defector named Yuri Bezmenov. Yuri Bezmenov's interview can be found on YouTube. Check it out. He'll tell you how they subverted our ideology through especially, and these are quotes. If you can't see me and you're listening, I have my air quotes up, higher education. Ladies and gentlemen, since the 60s, higher education has been anything but. Yeah, sure, if you're an engineer, you're a doctor, you're a chemist, yeah, you're going to learn how to do all those things, okay? And you're going to be successful in it. But if you are a businessman, a historian, or even worse, a social justice advocate, the ideology that you've been taught is almost diametrically opposed to the free thought that our founding fathers had intended for us to have. Now, those things, and again, it's on my Facebook if you want to read this slowly at your leisure. To navigate this battlefield, individuals must develop cognitive resilience, analytical skills, and strategic thinking to recognize, interpret, and respond to the various mechanisms of perception control being deployed against them. Ladies and gentlemen, every moment of our lives, we are in a struggle. People want to control our perception of ideas, events, people, establishments, institutions, all of that. They want to control our perception. Why? As we perceive, we think. As we think, we vote. Okay? I hope this is all coming together. Joe, good to see you. Don, glad to see you, Don. So I'm going over great writing here, and I'm going to have to make it brief because this guy is, like I said, he's pithy. He's deep. Martin Geddes. So he's talking about fifth generational warfare, right? And I'm going to get back to it in a minute. But right now, I'm going to tell everybody at the halfway mark that we're coming at you from the McAllen Creative Incubator. We got artists, we got sculptors, we got all kinds of stuff, photographers, musicians right over here, and the Bitcoin Otter. Okay, we're going out on 97.7 KCYP, the city, out of McAllen, Texas. Also on 97.7's YouTube and Facebook channel. Also 2 apps, TuneIn Radio, Radio Garden. Also, the Christopher Ott Facebook and YouTube channel, and the Bitcoin Otter Facebook and YouTube channel. Thank you for showing up, whether you're here live or whether you're checking us out, driving around town. Sue says, we need to create our own ideology, learn, then research. Yes. Now, that doesn't mean that we are detached from reality in any way. I think the opposite. It means that we get to determine not only the means of dealing with reality, but the conceptual landscape around it. And we can bounce it off each other. We can come to a consensus. We can come into a community. But we should not and never should accept dictates from petty potentates, if you like that word. I call professors petty potentates because they profess and dictate to fertile minds things that it takes them years, if at all, to recover from. Some of the worst fenced-in minds come from people who have been institutionalized in major universities. Ladies and gentlemen, they are crippled sometimes, not always. Sometimes they're crippled in their ability to do what Martin Geddes, a man much smarter than me, has articulated here. What was it? Develop cognitive resilience. See, universities strip you of that. They take down any resilience you have to refute the ideas and the concepts that they are inculcating into your young children's minds. Okay? They have no resistance if they want to pass the class. Or if they do, they got to lie about it on the tests. Which my kids, unfortunately, had to do at times. Analytical skills. Throw them out the window. You don't need analytical skills. You've got TV for that, right? Don't they analyze everything for you? Don't they regurgitate what they're told and want you to regurgitate the same tropes? Strategic thinking. You don't need that. Go to school. You don't need strategic thinking when you go to school, but maybe some schools. But when you go to university, they don't want you to think strategically. That's against their ethos. They're there to indoctrinate you. How do I know this? Because you come out with a doctorate. That's how I know it. See, you don't have to be real smart to see what they're doing to our kids. Chihuahuas. Anyway, this is Martin Geddes again. Just as organizations use capability maturity models, kind of like a corporate leg up they get, to measure their effectiveness in software development. This is Martin Geddes' milieu was software development. He was a wizard in software, all that good stuff, computer stuff, or business operations. We can apply a similar conceptual model to evaluate, check this out, to evaluate how the public matures in its understanding and resistance to fifth generational warfare. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy is on the edge of the sword. He is the tip of the spear in this warrior movement. There's no bullets, there's no bodies, thank God. I mean, there's bodies, right? All those people that take those nasty, nasty things get injected into our veins, right? There are bodies. There are bodies. But there are people fighting back cognitively. Let us join them. And the last, I won't beleaguer this. This model consists of 5 levels. And I'm not going to go deep, guys. I don't want to lose anybody here. Each representing a different stage of cognitive and strategic awareness in fifth generational warfare. The journey from level 1, which is naive, to level 5, which is mastery and resistance, is the transition from being a passive participant in a narrative control to an active agent capable of strategic information warfare. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a child of God, a servant of Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He expects a lot from me. And I'll tell you what, this is what we do as Christians when we place ourselves into the zone of apologetics. Now, I don't mean apologize in the English sense. I mean apologia in the Greek sense. An apology in the Greek sense means an explanation of why I believe what I believe. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I have been able to see this, so I know you can. If I can see it, I know you can. And this is exciting stuff. We have people that are independent of the matrix. Guys like Martin Geddes writing at this level that we can understand. Why do we not avail ourselves of this? I submit that we do. Not only do we, but these kinds of thoughts, this kind of ideological projection, logical and cognitive introspection, these kind of things, introspection, these kind of things are coming our way when the censorship gatekeepers fall. When the mainstream media, boom, goes to the crapper, which is where we're going to send it. We will have control in fifth generational warfare. Ian, blessings, Chris. Favor and blessings to your family and show in Jesus' name. Thank you, Ian. Thank you for the blessings. I accept them and ask Jesus to bless you too, sir. Sue says, bull poop, you need to use your own mind. Exactly. And you were commenting on how our cognitive abilities have been stunted purposely so that we could regurgitate the zeitgeist of our time. The matrix, the agenda of the matrix, if you will. Crypto news. Go back to crypto here. Europe leads in crypto-friendly banking with over 60 banks offering crypto services. Say what you will about Europe. I mean, it's, totalitarianism central. But at the same time, they lead in crypto-friendly banking. Go figure. Experts highlight the EU's long-standing regulatory framework, including MiCA, PSD2, and IPR. Well, they mean nothing to me or you, I'm sure, which have created a favorable environment for crypto adoption. So at least they're doing something right over there. Let me see here. Let me skip through this one. We're running a little late. Got a lot of stuff. This is so cool, man. I appreciate you guys hanging on. This was a little pithy today with the Martin Geddes introduction. Again, Bitcoin Otter at secure, SEKUR.com. Bitcoin Otter at secure.com. And I'll, ladies and gents, I will give you everything that I have, taken in regards to fifth generational warfare. And then you can leapfrog me and talk to me from where you go with it. A judicial coup. Okay. This is from X, Charlie Kirk. Now, a district court judge ordering the U.S. military to continue enlisting mentally delusional transgender troops is justifying her ruling by quoting the musical Hamilton. Palm to head. Did you hear that? Palm to head. This woman, this district court judge, is ordering the U.S. military, to do exactly what we have elected Donald Trump to stop. She's ordering it to continue, to prioritize people who have an issue whereby they decide that they are a male or a female, which is opposite of their true sex, their God-given sex, and they are going into our military. Part of this also on X here. We either have a presidency or we have a rule by 677 gavel-wielding dictators. He's referencing the judiciary, the district court, if you will, system. The Supreme Court must put these judges in place. That was from Charlie Kirk. I'm going to add to Charlie's assessment by saying this. Why is there not a leash of some kind? Okay, maybe that's a strong term. I'll give you that. Why is there not a limit? And I know the answer. This is purely. I'm positing this. Why is there not a limit on these district judges? Why did not, among the many, many things that our founding fathers foresaw and guarded against by limiting the government, why didn't they see this? District court judges flouting the will of the people as promulgated by the executive branch. How could this happen? Why didn't they limit this? Why didn't they see it? Well, here's my hunch. Here's my idea. They didn't include this as any limitations because they never thought someone would be without the testicular fortitude to ignore them. Ignore them. They are a district judge. They are a small post. They are not elected. They are appointed. And they remain and should remain, their rulings should remain in their district. Okay? Our founding fathers didn't think that the executive branch, the head thereof, or anyone involved with the executive branch would even care. But here we are, again, with our ideology subverted, that we care what somebody in Podunk, Mississippi, or San Francisco, California, or Hell on Earth, New York, cares. What some judge wants us to stop making America great again as they slam their gavel down. The founding fathers did not think that we would be so, I got a lot of adjectives here and none of them are good, that we would be so weakened by soy, indoctrinations, chemicals in our bloodstream, in our air, in our food, that we'd be so weakened, so disabled in our cognitive ability that we would actually give a rip about what a district judge outside of their district rules. This is foolishness, ladies and gentlemen. And we're dealing with it. We're dealing with it. So yes, this also comes from Vagrant of Rhodes on X. Louis Garza's looking. He's up. Blazing Sunset Munoz. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. We're talking about some potential judicial coup here in the United States with all these district courts trying to countermand the will of the people. My opinion. Anyway, this is from X also. Vagrant of Rhodes is the account name. If SCOTUS, Supreme Court, can't muster up the courage to step out and put these rogue judges in their place, according to the constitutional order, which clearly demands it, very unlikely they will, considering Roberts is a snake and a coward, this was his words, then Trump ignoring these judges is inevitable. Oh, yes. But right now, it's not profitable. Not monetarily, I mean with political clout. So, if Donald Trump ignores these judges, which should be done, which is what our founding fathers expected to be done out of the executive branch, okay, we have a political climate right now that has people that have been, and I know this is a serious term, I'm using it in a pejorative way. I understand all this. I understand it's going to sound fierce, but take it in stride. Many people have been retarded. Their mental ability has been retarded in the scientific sense. Spelled with an S, not a dollar sign. In the scientific sense, people have been retarded by things like higher education, mainstream media, newspapers, okay? All these types of institutions have worked to bring the cognitive ability of the average participant to a historical low. So when this happens, we have people that will be up in arms, literally up in almost literal, perhaps even literally up in arms. They're going to swat you or whatever about the fact that the executive branch has every right to just ignore district judges. Ignore whatever they say. Do what you want in your district, judge, but leave us out of it. We Americans, we freedom-loving patriots, want none of your bunk. Anyway, rogue Soros-funded NGO plots multi-city assault on Tesla as domestic terrorism escalates. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know this, right? Soros is owned by somebody. How do we know that? Well, if you see the face and know the name, they're not the real top of the pyramid. Just saying. So whoever owns Soros has set up these these strings of NGOs. This is what DOGE, Department of Government Excellency, I think it is. I don't know. Anyway, this is what they're rooting out, and this is why they hate Tesla. Oh man, the vegetarian loving, nothing against veggies, right? I mean, whatever. But the people who believed in the climate scam, the new green scam, all that stuff, they really love Tesla. Oh, they loved that company. Oh, I'm going to give me a Tesla. But now their chips have been replaced or a software update occurred. I don't know. But now they hate Tesla. And George Soros is guaranteeing that they're going to be paid to hate Tesla. How do NGOs and George Soros pay protesters? You, me, our tax dollars are stolen from us. This is what DOGE is trying to point out. Our tax dollars are siphoned away from us in these crappy bills passed by Congress. Nancy told us that a 5,000-page bill had to be passed before we could read it. Remember that? I do. So these bills have all kinds of stupidity in them. Bills are then passed on so that NGOs get money in their coffers. It goes back to the same politicians that passed it and goes to these NGOs that then pay these protesters to burn down Tesla dealerships. You don't believe me? You will one day. So, supercharging networks and vehicles. Okay, so these have all been, the showrooms and everything have been, painted, bombed, exploded, burned. So the Soros-funded nonprofit Indivisible is preparing to launch a multi-city offensive against the American company in the coming days. This, ladies and gentlemen, is despicable. Now, here we go. Where are we at? 12 minutes left, ladies and gents. Thanks for hanging on. I know there's a lot of stuff here today, and if you got something you want to talk about, please let me know. I'm looking in the chat right now. And we're good. So, here's another thing. Zero Hedge. Canada's largest Tesla showroom hit by attack. 80 vehicles damaged by rogue leftists. Ladies and gentlemen, again, they're getting paid for this. Okay, not to say that it's excusable, but they're getting paid for this. And these are Canadians' tax dollars, not yours. The wave of terrorism fueled by far-left groups aligned with the Democratic Party has spread internationally and is potentially linked to another incident in which dozens of Teslas were damaged at a showroom in Ontario, Canada. Let's see. Oh, here's good news. Several major corporations back out of this year's San Francisco Pride events. Ladies and gentlemen, I have nothing against people and what they do with their lives, their bodies. That's fine. Right? I mean, you're going to be judged just the way I'm going to be judged, and I'm not the judge of you. You do what you want. As long as there's consenting adults, what do I care? Right? That's your thing. You do your thing. I'll do mine. Whatever. But these Pride events, San Francisco Pride events, are horrible places. Why do I say that? They got naked people running around with kids. They got naked people running around with kids. They make all kinds of trash. They throw all the trash around. They never pick it up. But San Francisco is okay with that because that's who they are. They're trashy, okay? And they don't respect children. How do we know this? History. Just watch. Obama judge blocks DOGE from Social Security records. Musk team deletes vampires. Ooh, what's going on here? A federal judge Thursday issued a 2-week temporary restraining order, TRO, preventing Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency from accessing personally identifiable information from the Social Security Administration. Hey, Judge, whoever your name is. Hey, Judge, did you do this to China when China stole all of our Social Security numbers? How many of you, and I know many of you might be, an employee of or a contractor of the U.S. government, and ask yourself, how many times have you been the recipient of an email that says your data has been compromised? Here's they don't give you more than one. Here's a credit watch monitor you can have for a year. So China has had our Social Security numbers for decades. depending on how old you are. And now this judge comes against Doge, who's trying to cut off the vampires, if you will. These are 172-year-old people. Yeah. On the dole, with the checks being cashed of your tax dollars that go to Social Security. But if you're a leftist, you don't care. U.S. District Judge Ellen Hollander of Maryland also ordered Doge to delete any personally identifiable data they may possess. The ruling came after labor unions, who do you think controls them, and retirees asked for an emergency order limiting Doge access to the agency. Have they done it? Not. And its vast troves of personal reports. AP. Oh, man. Joe, you're watching. We need a spittoon here. When I say things like Associated Press, it's that taste because it's scum, like pond scum, algae, marinated in horse poop. The Doge team is essentially engaged in a fishing expedition at the Social Security Administration in search of a fraud epidemic based on little more than suspicion. Hey, Hollander, Judge, it's not suspicion. They brought the receipts. You don't think Hollander's paid? You don't think Hollander, the almighty judge, who ain't so almighty, you don't think Hollander is compromised? Wow. If you don't, you need to look into fifth generational warfare and ask Mr. Martin Geddes to help explain it to you. Trump signs an order eliminating Department of Education once and for all. And, in the inimitable, well, I'm going to imitate, but the almost inimitable words of Javier Milei, Donald Trump is saying to the Department of Education, afuera! Afuera! Departamento de Educación. Goodbye, Weingartner. Goodbye. Poof. They have stifled and contaminated the education of our children for way too long. My words. Again, Zero Hedge. Update at 16:30. 4:30 for those not in the military. As expected, President Trump is holding an event Thursday afternoon at the White House centered on his plans to overhaul the education department. Thank you, sir. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt. Oh, is she sharp? That woman is sharp. They have, mentally disabled reporters in that. And I'm not, I don't want to malign people who literally have a disability, but reporters in mainstream media they dive into the shallow end, knowing how shallow it is, to make their heads so cranially unable to, arrive at any logical conclusions. Purposely, they do this so that they could be in journalism. So I don't feel bad for them. So Carolyn Leavitt said all the critical functions of the Department of Education will remain ahead of President Trump signing an executive order to dismantle the federal agency. It should not even be a federal agency. And this is going to back it up. It's going to back it up, what I just said. The Department of Education will be much smaller than it is today. Thank you. As you know, the president's executive order directed Linda McMahon to greatly minimize the agency. So when it comes to student loans and Pell Grants, those will still be run out of the Department of Education. Okay? Still there. Help for those who need help is still there. She told reporters at the White House, referring to McMahon, the education secretary, the great responsibility of educating our nation's students will return to the states. That's where education belongs. That's where we need to have our decentralized government and take an axe to the centralization of government and its dictates. Any critical functions of the department will remain, Leavitt added. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever wanted to know, if you ever cared to think about how we are going to do away with the income tax and we are going to run the federal government on levies and tariffs, I'll tell you how. You shrink the thing. That huge, bloated conglomeration of federal government needs to be shrunk like a malignant tumor. Yes. Okay, a wart. on the backside of society, American society. It needs to be shrunk. It has its role in one of my favorite institutions, one of my favorite federal law enforcement institutions, the Border Patrol, is actually constitutionally mandated because the federal government is in charge of securing the border. What do we got here? Sue says, have you ever heard that salt water does to an electric vehicle battery and what it takes to mine them or how much they are to replace? I would love to see an independent study. Oh, there's many, Sue, and I agree 100% with that. Dan Ingersoll, good to see you. Corinne, glad you can make it. Back to these batteries. Yeah, little kids in Africa are dying under, inhumane conditions in cobalt mines trying to get these batteries to put into a car that can't get you past 400, 500 miles. Yeah, it's criminal, literally criminal, right? And here's what really ticks me off. They call it a Tesla, but they're not using real Tesla technology because that's being kept from us. But that's for another show. Here we go. Last one, ladies and gents, and we will close out this extravaganza of a Thursday show. Thanks for tuning in. The left knew they were lying to us all along. This was authored by Victor Davis Hanson. A little bit older than Mr. Martin Geddes, but just as bright. Victor David Hanson. Now, let me twist the knob a little bit. Dial it back because Victor Davis Hanson doesn't deal in the fifth generational warfare type of paradigm that Martin Geddes does. Two separate schools of thought, but very, very adaptable to the situations we find ourselves in today's age. So Victor Davis Hanson says, for years, the left has advanced utter untruths for cheap partisan purposes that it knew were at the time false. And now when caught, they just shrug, say they were lying all along. They damned us as incompetent, racist, and conspiratorial. Any of us who dared follow logic and evidence to point out that the Chinese government and its military were both culpable of the virus. What virus, do you ask? You should not have to. You got to be less than 10 years old if you have to ask. 1 million Americans died of COVID. Millions more suffered long-term injuries. Still, the left-wing media and Biden administration, who's that? I don't know, demonized any who dared speak the truth about the lab origin of the deadly virus. The lies were designed to protect the guilty, who helped fund the virus's origins, such as doctors Anthony Fauci and Francis Collins. Crimes against humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, may justice come. That was me. The Biden government also tried to use the lab theory to ridicule a supposed pro-Trump conspiracy. Western corporate interests deeply invested in China did not want their partner held responsible for veritably killing and maiming hundreds of millions worldwide. Almost as soon as Joe Biden was inaugurated, the left knew that he was physically and mentally unable to serve as president. Cha-ching, 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 slam dunk, Mr. Victor Davis Hanson. How do we know this? The auto pen scandal. How many things were written as edicts under the auto pen rule by some staffer? Remember what they did in the halls of Congress where one man, and I have children present, one man was doing something to another man on camera inside of our halls of Congress? Do you remember that video? Do you remember what those people did? I remember it. Those were the types of people that were using the auto pen to give people pardons, criminals pardons. And who knows what else? Who knows what else? But we're going to find out because the truth is going to win. The truth is going to win. And the truth, says God, says the Bible, will set you free. Jesus says he is the way, the truth, and the life, and that no one will come to the Father but by him. I'll tell you what, I'm on his road. If you want to be on his road and you want to learn about it, Bitcoin Otter at secure.com. I'd love to talk to you about that, primarily above everything else, because we all have eternal life. We're all going to live forever. Depends on you where you're going to live. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you very much for being a part of this show. I ask God to bless all of you and your families and your endeavors in this great country and out of it, because we are international in scope. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for watching, for participating, and being a part of this freedom movement. Amen, amen, amen. Have a great week. See you next week. Bitcoin Otter is out.
This is the Bitcoin Otter Radio Show.
Oh my God, I love you.